Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jim and Doug show. My partner is on vacation this week, so I'm just gonna do a quick show this week. It's the end of the year, last week of the NFL, and there was some big college football games. So let's kind of start with that. It's like bowl season's wrapping up, and some of the big ones took place last night. And I gotta say, I was a little surprised. The Clemson Notre Dame game. I actually thought Notre Dame was going to give them a game. I really thought they had the tools this year. They kind of pulled it all together, but Clemson just dominated from start to finish. Got to give Trevor Lawrence some credit, and that defense is ferocious. They just tore Notre Dame to pieces. So, um, I remember going back and watching Syracuse, Clemson, and Clemson barely got out of there alive. But since then, they've been on a roll, and they looked really, really tough. So, they get their ticket to the finals, and kind of, I guess, as expected, Alabama really, they just showed what kind of a powerhouse they are, both sides of the ball. We knew they were going to score points against Oklahoma State, and that's normally the way that season's gone for them. They give up a lot of points. The defense is terrible, but they score a lot of points. But Alabama, the score was only an 11-point game, but they dominated from start to finish. And I guess it's starting to get a little old. I guess Alabama versus Clemson, but they're the two best teams in the country, and that's the right game. And looking forward to that on January 7th. Should be a great game. Um, Kind of early to determine. I know Alabama's going to be at least a 6-point favorite or something, but I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't take that bet. If I had to bet on that, I would take the 6 points. I think it's going to be that close of a football game. 2, 3 points tops either way. Um, we'll make a determination on our next show about who we think is going to win, but I think it's up in the air. I know Alabama looks tough to beat, but that Clemson defense is ferocious. So if anyone has a shot, they do. Right now, I'm going to lean toward Alabama winning it, but in a very close game. But that could change depending on the health of Tua and all those kind of things. But really got to give a lot of credit to Dabo Sweeney. He's been a remarkable coach, and he's got those guys there year after year. And third time in 4 years, these guys are going to meet for the national championship, and looking forward to that very much. Some of the other bowl games weren't really as exciting, but you gotta keep wondering how long the Michigan's going to keep with Jim Harbaugh. Can't beat Ohio State and can't beat the big teams, and they got blown out by Florida yesterday, and it really isn't a surprise. I mean, but his record in big games is deplorable, and I think there's still a chance. I mean, still think there's a chance he's going to leave Michigan and take one of the NFL jobs, which there should be plenty of them after the season's over this weekend. So let's move on to the NFL, and it's the final week of the season. Hard to believe already, but it is. Um, I think the biggest games pretty much know who's going, but I think the ones that are still up in the air, Colts need to win on the road in Tennessee, which I think they can. Um, Really impressed with Luck and so forth. So I look for them to win and back into the playoffs after a really crappy start. And the Vikings, they need to win. I think they need to win, or the Eagles need to lose. So either one of those. I think the Vikings are home, so I think they probably can beat the Bears. The Bears are a team that's hard to figure out. One week they're good, next week they're not so good. Um, I mean they're in the playoffs, no question. They won the division, no question about that. But I'm still not completely sold. I don't think Mac can carry that whole team the entire way. And the jury's still out for me on Trubisky. This is a big stage for him, and let's see how he performs. So, um, but the NFL, like I said, looking forward to the playoffs, and don't count Brady out. I know everyone seems to be writing them off and so forth, but I think the AFC's kind of wide open. But I still like Kansas City. I'm still impressed with them, even though I know they lost to Seattle, which to me isn't a surprise. They're a tough team to beat at home, no question about that. But so we'll see how that works out. Um, I'll give you my early picks for this weekend's games. Dallas at the Giants. Season's over for the Giants. I think the Cowboys need this game, and they should take the Giants on the road going into the playoffs. Be surprised if the Giants pull this one out. I mean, the season's kind of lost, but we'll see how that goes. And like I said, I'm still on the Kansas City bandwagon. They got a playing that lousy Oakland team at home, so they should win that game pretty easily. And like I said, my kind of upset pick I think is Indianapolis. I'll take Luck over Mariota any day of the week. So those are my three picks for the week, and we'll see how they work out. And by the way, I was 3 for 3 last week with my picks, which is good because I had a kind of a crappy week. I lost 2 out of 3 the week before, which I think was the only game of the season. The only week of the season I was two losses and 1 win, which is rare. So look, let's move on real quick to baseball. There's still not a lot going on. Still the Machado and Harper haven't landed anywhere yet, which is a little surprising to me. These I guess it's because these deals are so big. There's a lot to work out. I know my partner still thinks Machado's going to the Yankees, which I'm not crazy about it, but it looks like that's more likely than not to happen, unless somebody comes up with some ridiculous amount of money to give him. I think he'll be wearing pinstripes, and I hope he turns his attitude around and starts to hustle. To wear the pinstripes is quite an honor, and you should take that with pride. And I hope he doesn't just take the money and loaf. But Harper, I'm not sure why the Yankees aren't interested in him. But he doesn't seem to be even talking to the Yankees. So he must have some other deal on the table that's probably going to happen for him already. So those are the two big things. Really, like I said, not a lot going on in baseball right now. So we shall move on. Basketball. Excuse me. The Warriors seem to be a little vulnerable nowadays. I'm not sure if it's injuries or what's causing that, but they're not as dominating as we've grown accustomed to in the past few years, which is, well, I mean, that happens. How long can you dominate? The parity in the NBA is becoming much better. So they're not gonna. I still think they're the best team in the West, but there's other teams that could take them. Still not sold, and I know LeBron got hurt, so the Lakers won't go anywhere without him, obviously. And I still think that the plan is for next year, not this year. Find out who they want to keep and who he wants to get. I know there's a lot of talk about Anthony Davis ultimately coming to the Lakers. Not sure how he's even able to talk about that. He's still under contract with the Pelicans. He's having an MVP type season, no question about it. But he's still under contract for 2 more years. So I'm not sure, unless there's some blockbuster trade. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to L.A. I know a lot of other people seem to think that's going to happen, and that would be a blockbuster if that does happen. So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, the NBA is still wide open. It's early in the season, and I guess the surprise in the East is the way the Nets are playing. They had won like 8 in a row. They'll come back down to earth. I don't think they're anywhere near the Celtics or Toronto in the East. That's for sure. But they're having a good season. Like I said, a bunch of unknowns, but they're winning basketball games. And like I said, the season's, I don't even think it's half over yet. So we got long way to go on there, and we'll keep an eye on that. So let's go move on to college hoops. There's been some kind of upsets, a lot of movement in the top five, but it's still the Duke and Virginia and Kansas, and those are the teams that are up top. And Kansas got knocked off by Arizona State, who promptly followed that up with a loss to Princeton, which was kind of a surprise yesterday. But college basketball is that way. No one's gonna run the table in college basketball anymore. That's just not gonna happen. I can't see it. So there'll be a lot of movement in the top five with college basketball moving forward as we rapidly approach moving into 2019 and get to March Madness, which is, like I said, one of the best times of the year in sports. Period. I know I did mention that St. John's was on a roll, but now they're going to have to start playing some teams with a lot to offer and play the Big East schedule and so forth. And they had their first test yesterday, and I don't even think this was a surprise because Seton Hall's played well. They beat Kentucky this year, and they're a good basketball team. And they beat St. John's on a kind of a buzzer beater at the end of the game. But St. John's they played well. But those are the kind of games they're going to have to win if they want to get some attention in the national level. They still haven't cracked the top 25 because of the schedule. They played kind of a weak schedule early in the season, but let's see how they hold up going forward. So we're going to keep this short this week because it's the end of the year. There's a lot going on. I hope everybody had a great Christmas. Like I said before we check out, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors for 2018, and they've been loyal. It's Lynch Toyota from Manchester, Connecticut, been with us all along, and Harley Davidson of Utica, been with us all along, and we introduced our new sponsor last week, Di Filippi's Bakery from Monticello, and we're looking forward to them continuing with us into 2019. So, very, very little going on, and like I said, in baseball, but college football, we'll have a lot to talk about on our next show. Looking forward to that very much. And like I said, it's the last weekend of the NFL, so we'll have a lot to talk about that as we get into the playoff picture. But in the meantime, thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate all your loyalty, and Dougie and I will be back in 2019. Looking forward to talking more about sports and whatever else you guys want to bring up. So thanks, and have a good year, and Happy New Year to all.